serio, chula. Qué bueno de que estés aquí. Llevo tiempo en decírtelo, que sigo testigo de lo que sucedió. Y no se merece alguien como tú. Solo quédate conmigo, solo en cambio te pido amor. Olvida todo lo que con él has pasado. Olvida todo lo que él te ha causado. Olvida todo y borra tus temores, que aquí estoy yo para regalarte flores y decirte que tú necesitas a alguien como yo, como yo, alguien como yo. Necesitas a alguien como yo, como yo, como yo. Yeah, te juro que tú eres primero, de que sobre un te amo y no falta un te quiero. Seguro que seré sincero, aunque sea cantante no soy bandolero. Pagaría la luna por ti, cruzaría mil estrellas por ti. Tú no sabes cuántas cosas haría por hacerte feliz. Cruzar los 7 mares por ti, viajar a algún planeta por ti y decirte que tú necesitas a alguien como yo, como yo, alguien como yo. Necesitas a alguien como yo, como yo, como yo. Y le macho, una antifeca.
Tantas estupideces, él no te trata como te merece. Ojalá pienses en mí cuando te bese, que te lleguen los recuerdos de cuando yo te beso y yo te muerdo. Solo pídelo y a tu lado yo vuelvo. Olvida los malos ratos, todo el sufrimiento y el maltrato, que si me lo pides hasta te lo mato. Que contigo no se meta, o ese tiburón le cortó las aletas. Pa' que sepa que la mujer se respeta. Te hace falta alguien como yo, que te trate bien, que te sorprenda con billetitos de 100 y que no se conforme con lo poco que le den.
Y borra tus temores, que aquí estoy yo para regalarte flores y decirte que tú necesitas a alguien como yo, como yo, alguien como yo. Necesitas a alguien como yo, como yo, como yo. Necesitas a alguien como yo. Todo el mundo con la clave. Como yo, como yo. Necesitas a alguien como yo. Que te sepa querer, que te entregue el corazón. Yo, así como yo. Necesitas a alguien como yo. Bomba. Como yo, como yo. Necesitas a alguien como yo. ¡Ataca, serio!
Tú lo que necesitas es un alcaeda, o sea, un antifeca.
¡Ayo! ¡Bomba! Necesitas a alguien como yo. Que no se merece alguien como tú. Solo quédate conmigo. Yeah. Y estoy serio, chula. Qué bueno de que estés aquí. Llevo tiempo en decírtelo, que sigo testigo de lo que sucedió. Y no se merece alguien como tú. Solo quédate conmigo.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Diamond Rivera of the Live Discussions with Diamond Podcast, and you just saw an amazing video from R.I. Latin Dance, filmed by the amazing Kat Waterman. And today, people, we have an amazing artist all the way from Rhode Island. But before we get started, this episode is sponsored by DuBachataRadio.com, where you can listen to this interview live right now in high quality. And everyone, as many people know, Rhode Island is really a second home to me, and being able to spread awareness about some amazing artists, directors, for some awesome companies is a priority for me. Really spreading awareness about the places I love, the artists I love, and the communities I love. And tonight, people, we have all the way from the Rhode Island area, the one and only Mori Granot Sanchez.
Hi. How
Hello,
are
hello, hello.
you? Hello, hello.
Yes, how have you been, Maury? Before we get started with everything, how have you been?
I've been good. It's been a hell of a year, and ups and downs, but I'm still here, so that's good, right?
Absolutely. I mean, nowadays the virtual world kind of rules now. Being able to, whether it's online classes, whether it's podcasts and platforms like this, whether it's performances, live kind of performances you're doing for your community. I mean, all of us have been able to capitalize, especially you, over this last year. Really loving the work you've been able to do and create within maybe your own classes personally or even with your team. So definitely big kudos to you with what you've been able to do over this past year.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I mean, as I said before, realizing let's just say the group size is amazing. I mean, to have that large of a group, and realizing too, I myself knowing some of these people there that I've been in same social settings with in Rhode Island, me traveling there from events, and then really seeing the beauty of dance, really seeing that through choreography, everyone with the fluidity, everyone just enjoying themselves, but most of all, that smile. That means so much to a lot of people, especially myself, with everything we've been going through. But realizing too, for me, I've told people for many years, Rhode Island has an amazing, amazing scene, especially going back to its salsa scene, even to presently with the bachata scene, even kizomba and zouk, and seeing so many styles that are able to really be there. Honestly, with Rhode Island and quote unquote, really the smallest state, but for me, saying it still has so much to offer. So I mean, Maury, growing up. I mean, we're going to really get into that actually. But before we get started as well, just letting you know that throughout the interview, if you have comments here, we will be posting them live as well. And also for anyone tuning in while you're listening, this will also be on Spotify. It is live right now on YouTube and Facebook as well. And after this interview, it will be on other streaming platforms. So, Maury, as I do with every one of my guests, I love hearing about the accomplishments, the accolades, the success that we see overall. But the most important thing, too, I love understanding is the artist before dance, the artist before the amazing performances on stage, the amazing visuals we see, understanding the human side. So, as I always start and ask, who was or who is Maury before dance?
Oh, I don't know if there is much of more
Mm,
before dance. Well, I started dancing when I was 5, so it was kind of a part of my life for most of my life. Um, it was just a little, girls with big dreams and yeah, exploring everything. Always like activities and anything that had to do with dance,
mm,
hanging out with my friends, with my family, and that's kind of like how I end up finding salsa eventually. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny when I do ask that because realizing a lot of the artists I know, really dance has always been a part of their life, whether
Mhm.
on a training side, like you've been training since you were 5, or whether at home, just music was always playing, your family was always dancing. So realizing too, when I asked that question, a lot of people were like, wait, when wasn't dance a part of my life? When
Right.
when didn't I move to some music? I mean, and like we know, many of us know, and many who don't know, you growing up in Israel, and me myself understanding with Israel, especially. Known for the past about 10 maybe plus years too, myself knowing that Israel is really an amazing dance scene. I mean, I feel like, in my opinion, that they take on styles that they see, and they really help bring a lot of awareness. Like for me, many people who don't know in Israel, I don't know where specifically, but I heard of Havana Club, I felt, yeah, for me, like realizing there are places across the world that you hear of because through social media, through visuals, but also realizing, like you said, you being dancing years ago, and even with salsa, I would say even in the 90s, we didn't have social media like we did now. We
Right.
didn't have a lot of things. I mean, even when we wanted to go to events or shows, you had to have a payphone and call someone and make sure, we're all there together. We meet up. And,
We sound so antiques.
yeah. You know what it is? I think is that we just have experience. We understand what it was like before it is what it is now. So, I
Yes.
mean, it's definitely a luxury what we have now. But understanding, like you said, dance has always been a part of your life since you were young. When was could you remember really the first dance class you took more as a teenager, growing into a young woman? Would you remember those times?
Yes, absolutely. I had, so my first dancing, introduced into dance was like just a ballet class at,
Mhm.
5. But then I kind of continued with that on that route until I was a teenager, and then
Mhm.
I went to boarding school. It's different than what it is here in the U.S. Very different. So I went to boarding school, and there I actually discovered even more genres. Like I danced ballet and jazz, and well, ballet I started with, but then jazz and modern, and as we did some African dance, and then I kind of dived into folk dancing. So Israeli folk dance that has both kind of like a footwork and partner work aspect to it, which is kind of cool. Um, and I did that for a long time. Then I found salsa, and I was like, oh my god, what is it? I didn't even know. I didn't know that salsa is what it is, and I
Yeah.
just heard that song, and I was like, oh my god, it's amazing, and I couldn't stop moving to that beat, and that's it. So once I discovered that, I just took off.
Man.
And I like dropped everything. Not dropped everything because I still train, but it was like, okay, like I need to do this now.
Yeah. Everything else is gonna go to the back burner. Let me
Yes,
focus on
exactly.
this. And like you said,
So there is no social dancing for, jazz, you
yeah.
know,
I mean, there's no ballet social.
ballet socials,
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, I understand. And like you said, through the music, it caught your attention, especially with salsa. I mean, salsa dating back decades and decades, the amount of music that is exposed to us. I mean, but also realizing how much salsa music, but music travels all over the world,
Right.
and realizing some of the most amazing dancers that I've met have come from Israel. One person I would say in particular for me, a big one is Shani Talmor.
Yeah.
You know, realizing too, and I love, and I feel this is my also personal opinion. I felt for many years, especially in Europe, they really took dance extremely seriously in terms of learning really the fundamentals,
Yeah.
with not having that much directors at one point. Because again, when scenes are growing, you have a limited amount of people you can learn from. Seeing also Europe really taking heed to the US and with Salsa on 2, of course, the Eddie Torres style, and having on 1 and Cuban style. My question now to you is, when you're starting salsa, is it more, and as they ask, is it really the on 2 style, the on 1 style, the Cuban style? Do you kind of remember what style you started out for?
Absolutely. I started when I first started. I learned casino and
Mm.
rueda, and that's what I did mainly. In the clubs, that's like just what we did.
Yeah.
And then later on 1 came into the picture. So like
Mm.
LA style was so flashy, everybody, wow, and that was great. So when I came here, and at first when I came here, and then I saw on 2, because I wasn't introduced to on 2, early 90s.
Yeah.
It didn't get there yet,
Mhm.
or at least not to me. And so when I came here and I saw on 2, I was like, oh my God, are we
Yeah.
listening to the same song? Like, what is going on? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I understand what you mean because I've seen people's faces when, people say dance salsa and understanding there are different styles. I mean, for me, I love salsa, but seeing the evolution of it, especially with the dancing styles, amazes me because one part of the world may actually only be fluent in one specific style. And then
Mhm.
when you come to places like New York, specifically, I've seen this of people coming from all over the world and their eyes light up because they're like, whoa, what
Yeah.
is this kind of fast paced style of dancing? On one, I've loved for years, but I've seen with one too, also being a performer, how it can like really grab your attention. And like you said, you coming from Israel to the US, was Rhode Island the first initial landing point?
No, actually, not at all. The first time I came to the US was like 3 weeks, and it was like after the military, I'm like, I'm gonna go do something fun. So I took off. I came to New York, and I was here for like 3 weeks. And I think I danced like I went dancing a couple of times, but then I went back. And then eventually, when I came back, I went to LA. And
Mm.
when I came to LA, I was like, oh, what is happening? I couldn't even understand what people were, when I thought I understood English. I had like a
Yeah.
little bit of English, and then I was like, whoa, I don't, I'm like, can you speak slow? I don't understand anything. And so that was a little bit overwhelming. And then I ended up getting to Rhode Island and then deciding not to leave.
I
Eventually.
mean, I mean, to be honest with you, I think a lot of people have that feeling. I would say myself, and we'll definitely get into that later. But now you talk about, of course, coming to Rhode Island, and you coming from Israel, you then kind of, like you said, going to New York, then coming back and landing in Rhode Island. What was that initial move like? Kind of going from where you're kind of comfortable at and kind of really going to, as they say, the smallest state? Was it an easy transition, or what are some kind of hardships along the way?
Oh boy, that's a loaded question. Lots of hardships, for sure. It was it was definitely a culture shock for me. I didn't plan on moving here permanently. I kind of like, oh, I'm just coming for 3 months. I'm just gonna do my thing. And then it went into like, oh, okay, I'm gonna stay a little longer, and then I extend my visa, and then from one thing led to another, and then I found salsa in Rhode Island, and I was like, oh, wow, I am staying. And then it went from 1 year to another year, and then eventually I met my husband, and then I was like, okay, I'm never going home.
I mean, hey, and most people don't know too, again, that with Rhode Island, I think it has a really thriving scene, but it definitely has a rich history. If people who don't know, for me as well, I actually started going to Rhode Island about 2008, 2009. But when did you kind of really transition to being in Rhode Island? Do you remember that time?
Yeah, well, I came here at the end of 2006,
Hmm.
and then I ended up, I just ended up staying in Rhode Island, and then started dancing in 2008. Like back to, I had met Carlos Gonzalez from Mampati. I had met him in the scene, going out
Yeah.
dancing, black rap at the time. And yeah, and just fell in love with salsa. Well, I was in love with salsa, but fell in love with on two, and then just decided to stay until I get better.
Yeah. I mean, hey, I don't blame you. I mean, from my personal experience being in Rhode Island, I remember performing at the Salsa Water Fire. I remember Jeannie Oki, the late Jeannie Oki, may she rest in peace. She brought my group. It was me and two other guys. It was an all-guy group. We were like different sizes. And she saw something in us in New York, brought us to the water fire. And for me, that was an experience.
Yep.
Meeting, of course, Carlos Gonzalez, myself, from Mamba Bati, those many years ago. For me, that experience of having people all around you, almost like a concert, but literally like there's no steps. There's really just a big floor and everybody's watching from all
Yeah,
angles.
4,000 people there, and yeah,
Man, I mean, that was an experience in itself, but for me as well, realizing how rich really the history is. It really dates back a lot longer than what people really know now with the bachata scene and other styles as well. So my question now is, from meeting Carlos with Mama Bati, from really getting initiated into the scene when you came and said started dancing around '08, who were really your first teachers? Like, how was it like you were taking class to class, or was there somebody that just caught your eye and you just wanted to work with them?
that's actually a funny story. So, at the time, not much, I don't know. Well, I shouldn't say that because we did have business cards, but I don't know. I had gotten, I went to Black Rap, but we were dancing and I was with a few friends and, I just dragged them like, oh, salsa. And they were like, what? And I was like, just go. And we went and I was, trying to find people to dance and I'm dancing. And then next thing you know, I get a little napkin with a number. And I was like, from this guy that I just danced with. I'm like, what? No. So I threw it away. So, whatever. From here to there, end up being Carlos. And that's how I met him dancing. And one day, I remember, oh my God, that's exactly what happened. I went back home for the first time after, I applied for my, my green card and, I ended up finally being able to go home. And I go home, visit for the first time. And oh my God, all of my friends that have been, we're just social dancing in the scene. All of a sudden they're performers and everybody's always flashy. And I was like, I was so behind. So when I came back, I was like, okay, I need to start taking dance seriously. I need to find salsa classes. Just said it to one of my friends, not thinking anything of it. We were like, all right, let's go to the gym. We go to the gym, we're working out, an alarm goes off. It's like a fire alarm or whatever. They're telling everybody to leave. As I'm leaving out, and we all kind of like standing there outside, here comes Carlos, the guy from the club that I saw, and he's like, hey, what are you doing here? Like, hey, I'm working out.
What are you doing at the gym? I'm working.
And I was like, oh my God, yeah, he's a salsa teacher, whatever. So he's like, yeah, actually, I've been, teaching at this class. I think it was like May. I don't know why I remember this day. It was like May 14 or May 13, 2008 or whatever. Wow. And I was like, let's go. And I went to my first class. It was like a small class that he had with, oh my God, so many people. So it was like this class, and I'm only dancing on one. I never danced on two before, and then I'm seeing all of them, and they're already 6 months into the class. Like they're a class that's been going on, and they have a performance in 3 weeks. And I was like, might as well. I'll learn the choreo. Okay. So I learned it, performed on 2-3 weeks later, and then that's it. Eventually, I sticked around. And then we started Mama Pati. And then kind of that's how things rolled. So that was how I met Carlos and how I started my dance journey. And then I had Anar Frank that you must have heard of. Anar.
Oh, yes. I had it on the platform. I mean, Carlos is here. He remembers. Carlos, I'm sorry that she almost threw your number away at the.
I know. I did it. Well, who gives you a number? I give you a business card.
Gotcha.
Now he's more equipped.
Absolutely. Also, too, we have Miss Ava Apple here showing some love.
Shalom.
See? And as well, we have all the way from London, Miss Andrea Stewart Welcher from Latino Life. And definitely big shout outs to her. as well. But realizing too, it's seeing those stories and the relationship and how things worked. I think everything happens for a reason.
Absolutely.
But I think Carlos here says he doesn't remember that. So, it's an agree to disagree. So one person's reality is someone else's dream. So, I mean, we'll take it there. But so now, of course, with initially having Mambo Bati and starting that, when did you, for yourself, did you find that sooner or later you would transition to working with others? Or was
Yeah.
it just over the years you just you were still trying to find your own path?
I think I was trying to find my own path. So I was with Mom Pati, I believe, the first about 3 years.
Yeah.
And then I decided to kind of like figure, just try to do new things. So I trained with Anara for some time. I worked with her, collaborated on different things. And she is a phenomenal instructor, so knowledgeable. And then while I was with Mama Pati, actually, I had met Anna and Joel, Anna Masakote and Joel Masako, and we were at the Miami Salsa Congress, and it was raining outside, so they told everybody to get out of the pools and go back inside. And it's like lunchtime, we're hungry, like okay. So we met at the time, Anna and Joel. I have never met them in person yet.
Yeah.
So only like seeing them, and of course admired them for a long time. And we were walking, we bump into them like, oh, Boston, Rhode Island, yeah, three friends. And we hung out, had lunch or whatever. We ordered pizza to the room, and that's how I ended up meeting Anna and Joel.
Yes.
And then later, going to the retreat, which is the story.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, because me, myself, having Anara on a platform about a month or two ago, being able to talk to her and understand her journey, understand how much she's contributed, especially to the Boston community, also in the park events, with the retreats she does with various artists, including here, Mr. Lemire. We love you, Mori. I mean, that love right there. I mean, realizing, because again, like as you say, and people may not understand, that relationship with Boston and Rhode Island, I've seen it myself, is really strong. Being able to collaborate with different artists is really important because it's so easy for people from Boston to just say, hey, no, we're here and you guys kind of figure it out. Because there are scenes like that kind of stick to themselves. But, seeing with people like Anara has been able to do it, Meta Movements, and so many other groups, it's really amazing. I mean, and as you said, the retreats that she's had. So kind of give us an understanding, because I've heard so much about these retreats, and I've also talked to Anara about it, but also now talking to someone as well as Lemire, but other people who have been through that experience. What were those moments like?
Oh my God, incredible. So with Anara at the time, I had went to Cuba, on top of, besides the training that I did with her and Meta Movement, I I went to Cuba with her and to Puerto Rico. It was like 2012, if I'm not mistaken. And that was incredible. And then the retreats, the Masakote retreats, I ended up actually going to them as a massage therapist on staff. Because remember the story I just told about meeting Anna and Joel?
Yes.
So Anna, funny story. They're just kind of asking us, what do you do beside dance? And I'm like, Carlos was telling his story, and then I'm telling mine. I'm like, I'm a massage therapist, da da da. And they're like, oh, you're a massage therapist, oh, cool. Moving on to different topics and whatever we're talking. And next thing you know, a few days later, all of a sudden, I get a phone call, and it's Anna Masakote calling me, and I was like, oh, why is she calling me? And I got like super excited and nervous, and I'm like, okay, answer. So she's like, wow, hi, Maury, I remember me. I'm like, yeah, I remember you.
Yeah.
And, she goes on to tell me that they had a masseuse on staff and she cannot make it. And Joel remembered that I am a massage therapist. And because I'm in Rhode Island, would I be available and at
Yeah.
all interested? And I'm like, absolutely, love it. Yes. You're like, you don't want to check your schedule? I'm like, no, I got it. I got it. So I went to the retreats as a masseuse and was taking all the classes. This was 2011, and just fell in love with their method, fell in love with their, just in general, everything. And thanks, Yaina. And just kept going year after year, and as being a masseuse on staff, and then eventually deciding that I want to, I took lessons with them, not often, because the retreats were mainly where I trained with them. And then every so often, whatever I could take, like workshops, I did. And then I ended up joining Masa 2 eventually, and then transitioning into, and then eventually, I think it was 2018, that I started teaching at the retreats. And we're like, all right, done with massage. Let's continue dance.
I mean, transition worked because
Yeah.
if people don't understand, like, especially in Salsa Congress, I started seeing it the last 5-10 years, how important massage therapy is within dance events.
Yes.
I mean, people talk about partying 3 days straight, almost no sleep, going from room to room. And after that Monday, they just feel like crap sometimes. So me seeing as well, I started seeing this originally at the Connecticut Salsa Festival years ago, that they started bringing in massage therapists and seeing how much these artists that are performing day after day, in a sense, appreciate that, because they understand that their body, again, essentially is a temple, and you want to make sure that your body is fluid, because we all understand in this world that one wrong move can change everything.
Absolutely. And if you don't take care of yourself, that's the only body you have. So, especially as dancers, and even, I want to say, not just professional dancers, but also social dancers that taking their social dancing, very seriously and go out dancing a lot. Like, we have to take care of our feet and, in our bodies, so we can continue dancing for a long time.
Absolutely. And it's amazing you talked about Masa too, because Audrey Guerrero here said, I would not be where I am if I hadn't had Maury's coaching in Masa 2. Truly owe a lot of my dance skills to you. And it's moments or things like this that why I do this platform, because understanding how much your influence and how much you've impacted your community from the people that have learned from you, because I tell instructors all the time that I know personally or that I've seen that you have a responsibility. You have a responsibility to your students, of course, to keep them safe, but also give them their money's worth. If you're gonna charge them monthly, teach them the right things. And as we've spoken as well, one thing I appreciated, it was about 2016, 2017, actually, when I started going to Rhode Island. And originally, as we also spoke, my first sight of you was at a social I was filming. And I was amazed because I was like, finally, I'm seeing a female here that leads. And it was amazing. I was like, yes. I was like, okay, I love this, because, in New York, I see it from time to time. But and I'm going to be completely honest, this is something I haven't told people. I have top lists in terms of, like, who are my top dancers in these categories. And really, with top female leads, you're definitely one of my top 5.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely, because again, and one thing I have talked to many artists about, especially women, when they're leading another female, for example, the one thing I hate, especially as a videographer, and I've seen it, is the notion that someone should take both of them from each other and start and it's like you're ruining their experience, and I had to bring that up because my first sight of you, seeing you, of course, dancing with everyone, but dancing with another female and leading and doing great at it, I was like, yeah, that's a rarity. But that is also something that I've talked to other female leads about, telling me their biggest issues is when someone takes it upon themselves to interrupt your moment.
Absolutely. It's so I see it as like disrespect. Like, I'm sorry. This is not I'm not calling for help. I got this. And this is I think for me leading it's like it's so important for me to kind of lead by example in a way that like we as women, it's not just because we're women doesn't mean that we have to fall into the role of a follower, like leading and following is a role based on choice, not based on gender, which is some or sexual preference. So to me, I always loved leading just in general. I did it because I'm like, there's nobody else. Let me try. And that's kind of how I started. And then I was like, I loved the challenge of it.
Yeah.
So I kind of started doing it. And at the beginning, I would only dance like with one girl, like all the time.
You had that connection.
And that's it. Like I could not handle anything else. And then slowly, and then I remember the first time a girl asked me to lead her, and I was like, me? Okay. So I was like, and then from one thing to another, I just started realizing like, why are we, it just like it's changing the perspective and understanding that lead and follow are two different, very important, but very different skills set, like that's one and that's another. You can't really compare, but how amazing is it if you can do both? I feel like it just makes you like a more well-rounded dancer. You just understand a situation from all perspectives. And that's why like with my team, I feel like I don't want to say stress it, but like it's important to me that everybody going to experience, even with my students, not just my team, which is definitely my team, but with my students, understand the both sides of this dance, because I feel like when you have the choice, you don't fall to default. You choose, you go, and it's empowering.
Absolutely. Even Audrey here is saying based on choice, not gender. And of course, giving a big shout out to Angie and Audrey, who right now in Austin, coming from Boston, it's amazing seeing that. And for me, I've always thought that way, even as a young kid. I mean, as long as two people are enjoying the dance, I think there should be no interruption. There should be no, oh, there's something wrong with that. I mean, for me, even growing up in New York in the salsa scene, maybe 10, 15 years ago, I would say starting to see same gender social dancing more prevalent, starting to see same gender routines, competition pieces. The more exposure it got, the more normalized it got. But I think too a big issue was people weren't seeing enough female dancers dancing with one another, with one taking the follow and one taking the lead, or even doing both at the same time. I mean, just mixing it up. And I think is that with the more and more with social media and videos either going viral or just giving more exposure, just showing you there is something out there that is different than 10 years ago. Because what happens with us, we evolve. Our language evolves, our understanding evolves, and the way we look at things should evolve. And
absolutely.
Absolutely. And I don't know who this is, but we'll figure it out. Whoever they are says that you are one of their favorite leads, hands down. I totally agree, because I mean, what happens to us as dancers, when people see things, it's hard for us to see it because we're in a whole different mindset. We're
Yeah.
not focused on looking for that gratification. It just happens naturally.
Exactly.
And seeing, like you said, you being able to learn both is so important because you understand I will never say, because also when I say language evolves, even my language, understanding, maybe I just saw male leads most of my life, but now you see female leads, you see just people, no matter what, even males following more prevalently. And really, for me, as times are changing, we have to adapt and understand, hey, everyone's capable of doing anything. And I would say breaking those gender norms really important. People like Tina Cavicchio, but also artists like yourselves that are pushing the culture forward is important. So now my question, before we get to the last video we'll show, is with you, of course, doing Mambo Bate, growing up from that and transitioning, working with, the Masacote collective, then I believe there was a point that our Latin dance came. So kind of
Yeah.
explain to us, how did our Latin dance come about?
Oh man. So I after Mama Pati, I looked to see what is it that I really wanted to do, and I really wanted to focus on, like, my goal was like focusing not so much of like performing out, but like growing the community within. So I decided to just kind of start.
Yeah.
I didn't really have like a grand plan of, like, step by step of kind of what it is that I wanted to do. I knew I love teaching. I knew I love dancing. So I'm like, all right, let's do this. So I remember at the time I was like, oh my God, what name would I call it? And I remember talking to Anna, and she's like, do something like Rhode Island. I was like, oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
So, and I just had named it, just named something, and then ended up teaching at Brown University,
Yeah.
creating, and it kind of all evolved from there.
Yeah.
So at first it was just kind of like a school. Yeah, haven't yet had like a performance team. So,
Mhm.
and then eventually, 4 years ago, I decided to start my own team, like legit.
Yeah.
We had a little project that we did, like a few friends here in Rhode Island, and we had a choreography that I loved, and I wanted to perform it, but I wanted to perform it with my team. So eventually, when I started Rhode Island Dance Synergy,
Yeah.
that's the actual name, right? So Rhode Island Dance Synergy, I kind of like at first kind of handpicked the people I wanted to be in it, because for me, it's all about the camaraderie and like the vibes. Like we need to really vibe together. And I think, in the past 4 years, the team has grown a lot.
Yeah.
You saw in the first video.
Yeah. I mean, as we saw in the first video, you had a whole army. I mean,
Literally, army. So it's all about feeling it together and just doing things as a community, and being inviting, and just continue building up on that. So starting to the first year I didn't perform with them, but then the second year when we did like a rebirth of the choreography that I did with my friends, was a pasaporte with all white.
Yeah, I love that one. I love that
one. And I was like, I need to put this piece. This is like, it's such an important piece for me. And having those incredible souls and dancing with my team on stage in Boston. The first Congress I've been, when I came to the US, I was like, oh my God, for me it was like a dream come true.
Man, I mean, just even you talking about the group, people that I remember, like Brian, Christy, JB Burke, that I've seen on Facebook. I think his name's JB. I forgot his first name. He does a lot of Afro-Cuban I've seen videos when you guys have Fuego y Candela. Pasaporte, I really love that routine because of the body movement. And
Yeah.
it definitely gave me some, Masacote vibes. Really, just I can see where the teachings, you can see kind of taking bits and pieces, but making it your own. But I
Yeah.
think really what's important is that I saw a group with you that was dancing alongside you and not trying to dance with you, if you
Mhm.
get what I mean. Because, I mean,
Absolutely.
there are so many teams in the US alone. As we see in some congresses, there are 60 shows a night.
Yeah.
So, and realizing that there are very few teams that can just really do a routine from start to finish, be on timing, great timing, enjoying the actual routine, but really dancing alongside their teacher and not having people look and say, "Oh, there's a teacher," and everybody else is following. I see everybody in unison, but I also think it's definitely due to you as well with the teaching of being strict, making sure you have everything on time. I mean, absolutely, we have here as well Henry, the amazing Henry here, saying we are
Oh,
so lucky
Henry.
to have you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Big shout out to Henry. Definitely love him. Me going to Rhode Island for many years, seeing him at many socials. Amazing, amazing guy. And also, too, with our Latin dance over the years, even before COVID, even during COVID, now seeing the work you've been able to do with Henry, I really love. But also now you having your collective, our Latin dance with Synergy, the work you did with the Alma Sacera, Masa too, but realizing kind of the dancers, I've seen the growth. Like you said, the dancers you had when you first started, now that routine you created that we showed in the beginning was amazing because you saw the enjoyment in people because even through adversity, even through a pandemic,
Absolutely.
um, realizing how much dance means to people and it gives people joy, it gives people hope. It was amazing because again, Rhode Island was hit very hard, just
Very
like
hard.
New York during COVID.
Yeah.
But realizing too how vulnerable our community was because this type of virus thrives on what we love doing is being connected. So, I mean, us having to adjust, directors having to adjust, studio owners closing down for some times and slowly reopening. For example, with Carlos and Mabobati opening up now in May and
Yeah.
doing it safely, I commend that and realizing too again is that even with the smallest city or the smallest state, how much Rhode Island has done for the dance community overall. Because going even with salsa and then having bachata be big, I can say one thing: Rhode Island knows how to party. Rhode
Yes.
Island, Boston, definitely knows, but Rhode Island for sure, definitely
Yeah.
knows how to party.
100%.
And my question now to you before I show this amazing visual with you and Anna Masacote is when with the pandemic, how was that overall adjustment for you? I mean, even though we're still, of course, going through it, how were those initial adjustments for you when everything really started?
Oh, wow. When everything started, we had like a momentum, we were like, it was absolutely, it was an incredible year for us. And, we were so looking forward for 2020, and then 2020 started, we had Masa Quince, the 15-year anniversary for Masacote that, we were part of, and I was part of, and part of my team was also part of,
Yeah.
and it was just so incredible. And
Mhm.
then Nick's Motion, that we really
Yeah.
rallied, and like talking about army, like it's
Mhm.
even one of our dancers that had moved to Texas, Karen, and she flew in 2 days before Nick's Motion practice. And then we went we rented a van, and the RLD bus was traveling to Nick's Motion, and we were so excited. It was a magical weekend, and then pandemic.
Yeah.
And I honestly, at the beginning, I was like, oh, all right, it's a nice to have a little break, And then once you start realizing, okay, we need to start figuring this online stuff, and thankfully, I had some equipment because I had been doing teaching for Dance to Power, Anna's online academy, and I had some equipment, so I was a little familiar with Zoom, and we just, at first we didn't even have classes. It was just, trying to have some practices with the team. And honestly, if it wasn't for my team, literally, I do not know what I would have done. They been incredibly supportive throughout this whole year, rallying together, practicing with masks on, 6 feet apart, whatever we needed to do just to get together and practice, but do it safe. We did. Like we found some amazing places in Rhode Island that we can dance outdoors, and it's been, although it's been challenging, it's been also really amazing because we became creative. And it wasn't just me, I created like a little media team within my team to kind of help facilitate all of this online media stuff and come up with content, because how are we going to keep ourselves dancing if we're not going to do something, And being in front of a computer, if it's for work or school or both, or even if you're teaching and constantly just everything on social media, it was just a lot. So finding, locations outdoors where we could be safe and bring everybody together in a way to just dance and train and just hold space together, doing something we love before we're gonna all go insane with this pandemic. I think, although it was very challenging, it's also been positive in a way that it made us creative.
Absolutely.
Creative.
I definitely agree for that, because I as well told you that I love that, again, you've been adapting to the situation as an artist and still producing amazing work, because I think too what this pandemic has shown is how hard it is for some really now to stay relevant, stay consistent. And seeing artists like yourself from Rhode Island really pushing great content, not just of yourself, but of your team, is really awesome. But, now what we're going to be able to do is show you our last video till we get to our last segment called The Randoms. This is an amazing piece with Ana Masacote and the one and only Mori. And this amazing video, I love it. I hope you love it. Check it out.
Ver aves volar, sabes que sentí. Sol en el cielo, sabes que sentí. Brisa que acaricia, sabes que sentí. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life para mí. Y me siento bien. Peces en el mar, sabes que sentí. Río correr, sabes que sentí. Flores en árboles, sabes que sentí. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life para mí. Me siento bien. Libélulas en el sol, a eso me refiero, yo no es así. Mariposa en diversión, a eso me refiero yo. Dormir en paz cuando el día termina, a eso me refiero. It's a war, it's a new war, and the cold war para mí. estrellas que brillan, sabes lo que sentí, aromas de pino, sabes lo que sentí. Hoy la libertad es mía y eso es lo que sentí. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life. Oh, mamá, llénate de alegría y déjate llevar. Es un nuevo día, es un nuevo amanecer. Es un nuevo amanecer para todos y para ti también. Para mí. Y me siento bien.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. I mean, just amazing, amazing. I mean, again, just the smiles on both of your faces, and doing it publicly. I know when people get so nervous doing it, but it felt so genuine and so real. And again, big shout out to Kat Waterman, who does really
Yes,
phenomenal work. Yes,
yes.
I mean, because we
Well,
can put
people
the
don't know
audio.
we were actually social dancing. This was not choreographed, and we did it many times. And we're like, you know what? Right at the end there, we're like, you know what?
Yeah, just and honestly, even as we're watching the video, people showing their love. Catherine here saying Mori is the glue that keeps us all connected. Ivonia saying, "Wow, two titans in the salsa scene," as well as saying, "Mori, thank you for sharing your special craft with us. You're a phenomenal dancer in person," as well as Alessandra Givens saying, "Amazing." And just realizing too the gift that you have, the gift to put a smile on people's faces, the joy of dance, you also influencing others like your students. I think you're doing amazing work.
Thank
And at least now, before we get to our last segment called the randoms, my question to you is, with everything going on, with things and us trying to get back to some type of normalcy, what is your outlook on the future of our scene?
Good question. What is my outlook? I think hopefully to get back to dance and social dancing, safely.
Yeah.
if COVID could just disappear, please go away. So if I can't wait to
Yeah.
just get back into dancing and meeting people again, and meeting new people again, and going to different events, and just support other artists, continue doing different projects with different artists, either locally or nationally, wherever. That's the goal.
Absolutely. I mean, I definitely agree. I think we all want that. And again, like you said, and reiterated safely, because again, we know how much dance means to a lot of us. It is an escape from most of our realities. So, hopefully we do get back to some type of normalcy, and a lot of us feel comfortable dancing again, because it's been far too long. And before we get started into the randoms, I have to shout out none other than Angel Sanchez.
My baby. Yes.
Definitely big shout out to you, Angel. I mean, wait, question. Isn't Angel in All Right Latin Dance?
Yes, he is.
Yes. Okay. I know I've seen him in that video. I was like, wait, I know I saw him. I believe, yeah.
It there. He
Okay.
performed, and the last piece that we did with Masakote, he performed there too. Actually, Henry did too, and Jorge from the team did as well. It was like a, half Boston, half Rhode Island.
I mean, hey, that's collaboration at its finest. So I love it. I love it. So now it helps us transition now to our last segment that I have called the randoms, which is about 10 questions. Hopefully allows me and the audience get to know you a little bit more. So all I need to know is when you are ready.
I'm ready.
All right. You could have one meal right now. What would it be?
Ooh, ice cream or pizza.
Wow. Okay. All right. Next question is, if you could dance at one event, what would the song be? If you had one song at one event, what would it be?
That's a tough question.
Mm.
I change my favorite song every other day because I get introduced to a new one. I'm like, I love it. Oh no. I'll just go with a really good one, Mi Música by Havana de Primera. It's always a good one.
Perfect. All right. I love it. All right. Next question is, if you could go on any vacation right now, where would it be?
If I could go right now, I will go to Israel because I miss home.
Oh yeah. I mean, I want to go to Israel. I mean, a friend of mine's, Bree Jones, with her partner Arnaldus, and seeing the work that, especially in Israel, a lot of artists are doing. I love it. Again, big shout out to the Havana Club out there. Again, I think Israel's doing amazing work, whether it's salsa related, bachata related. I just think dance related. Like Israel's a real hot spot that I think a lot of people should know. Also, too, a big shout out to Christopher DaCosta, saying such an amazing dancer, teacher, and friend. Rhode Island is so lucky to have you. Awesome, awesome. So my next question goes, what did Mori want to be at 10 years old?
Ooh, a performer. I always loved being on stage for some reason. No matter what I did, I was always like either in front of a window or a mirror and like, yeah, that was me.
Okay. All right. I love it. I love it. Next question. Who are you wearing right now? I see Miel.
Yeah. I am wearing Angie and Audrey design by Audrey with the beautiful Angie here. So miel, honey in Spanish, and one of my favorite shirts.
Love it. Yes, get your apparel, please. I love Angie and Audrey, and I love what they represent. I love their work. Again, also Masakote, really alumni, and also the relationship with you, and it's really special. And now it brings us to our next question. For you right now, if you were at one event, what would that event be?
If I could be in one event?
Yes.
I don't know.
I don't know if you're going to go home team or you're going to go.
Can I be biased and say Salsa Fire? Because this is our annual social that we do once a year at Brown, and it's like open to the community, and it was our second year that we couldn't do Salsa Fire this year because of COVID. So next year is going to be our 10-year anniversary. So I want to be there.
All right. I mean, I tell you this, for anyone, the water fire area is beautiful. And when they mean water fire, it really is like, I think the mall is surrounded by water and they have fire pits and they light it up at night and it's absolutely beautiful. Yes. All right. Next question would be, if you could have a superpower, what would it be?
If I had a superpower, to think of a place and go the right away.
Okay. I mean, teleportation, I would say.
There
in an instant. Absolutely. All right. Perfect. Next question is, if you could dance with 3 dancers right now at a social, who would they be?
Oh no, I can't choose. There's too many. You know what? I'm gonna answer it different. I'm gonna say it's gonna be my birthday, and it's gonna be my birthday circle, so I can dance with everybody.
Okay, all right, we'll take that. We'll definitely take that. All right, I like that answer. All right, second before last is, what is a special talent that many people wouldn't know you have?
Oh, I think maybe many people do know I have, but they only, hey,
Yes.
Kevin! Yes. Um, I make really good sandwiches, I think.
Okay.
At least that's the expression that everybody has on their face.
I mean,
Um,
does Angel have that expression when you make him a sandwich?
yes.
He has to. So.
He doesn't have a choice. I have the
Yeah.
camera on him. Like, how is it?
Oh my God. So, all right, you're a pretty good cook. I would say that.
No, I
Okay.
just make good sandwiches and good coffee. That's it.
Ooh, okay. I like that. All right, perfect. And it's funny you said coffee because Alessandra says exactly the same thing. So,
Yes.
okay, all right. I definitely respect that. I got that. All right. Last question. If you're on an island, say for instance, you're on a island of your dreams, but there is no Wi-Fi. What are 3 things that you would have to have with you? So you're basically stuck on an island and you can only have 3 things. What would they be?
Oh, okay. My husband, number
Right?
one,
Perfect.
for so many reasons. Um, not even the obvious ones. Just you can
Yeah.
dance. Music.
Hmm.
Three. I need 2 more. Ice cream.
All right. So if you had an ice cream, which ice cream would it be?
Oh, black raspberry chocolate chip.
Wow. All right.
Very
That's very specific, and I appreciate that. And honestly, Maury, I really thank you for doing this segment. I always love doing it. Get to know a little bit more about you. That for yourself, you love black raspberry chocolate chip ice cream. You love pizza and ice cream. I mean, you love it all. So definitely respect that, as well as Jenny Ortega here, giving you another thumbs up on that. And again, thank you for doing this segment. Again, it helps me learn a little bit more about you, but also helps the people that love seeing you on stage or have seen you in videos get to have a better connection with you. So I definitely love that. And now it brings us to our conclusion of our talk tonight. And honestly, from start to finish, I've loved every minute of it. And for me, I think it's helped give a glimpse into your life because I don't feel you can get everything in one. And I would definitely love to have you back on, well, as maybe as a all-female panel, maybe even just artists from Rhode Island, even yourself with a partner, and really getting deeper into a lot of conversations that I think are needed, especially if you want our community to get back safely and responsibly. But before we go, I would love to know if you had any last few words for myself and the audience, but also contact information on how people can reach you and learn more about yourself and our Latin dance.
Oh, okay. First, thank you so much for having me. It was an honor. And I think, dance and do what you love and, don't apologize for it. Be who you are, do what you love, and just have fun with it. And, you figure it out along the way. If you don't know something, you'll just figure it out.
Absolutely.
And how to reach me, social media probably going to be the best. So our Instagram, RL and Dance, and Mori G Sanchez on Instagram, and also Facebook, same thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, because again, for me, I love spreading awareness about artists that I admire, and because again, I think when we do come back to our dance scene, wherever it is, whether it's in Rhode Island, New York, LA, Texas, you name it, Florida, things are really going to look different. I think in a good, but also a revealing way, making people understand that for many people, dance isn't their life. So you might not see the same people, but you're definitely going to see a new influx of dancers coming in. And I'm really glad that, especially in Rhode Island, they have people like yourself, Carlos, and others that are really doing great things within the community, but also collaborating with other cities to bring more awareness. Because I think Rhode Island specifically, I love because especially the connection with Boston over the years that is a
Absolutely.
prime example of collaboration and unifying. And I think it's absolutely amazing. And again, I'm thankful and honored that I had you on tonight because, if many people know or don't know, I myself, about maybe 4 to 5 years from now, will be moving officially to Rhode Island. So, for me, moving to Rhode Island, that means I want to take my filming media company and really focus on, again, spreading awareness about Rhode Island, the beauty of its scene, and so much more, because it was people like Jeannie Oki that brought me out over 10 plus years ago. And I want to give back to the community just like she's done, and also work with artists like yourself. So, I've been really thankful again to have you on tonight. And I'm really looking forward to the future, and hopefully we'll all be in a safer space and we can definitely come together.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure.
Absolutely. I mean, I want to thank everyone who's been able to tune in, everyone that will tune in as well. We just finished now, and we will be on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, throughbuckshottheradio.com, and also other streaming platforms. So this has been another episode of the Live Discussions with Diamond podcast, episode 114. I am here with the amazing Mori from Rhode Island of RI Latin Dance. I thank you all for tuning in wherever you are. Everyone, please again, stay safe, stay blessed, and we will we will definitely see each other soon enough. Thank you
Amen.
all. Definitely.